Hi, I'm Perry Atkinson, General Manager here at theDove. Hey, check out our other videos and check out our website at theDove.us. Well, welcome to Focus Today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson, and delighted to have back with us today. It's been a while, but look forward to it. Scott Jorgensen, he is a legislative staffer up there, an author and former reporter, and kind of our eyes and ears on the scene at the state capitol in Salem as they are in session. And Scott, what a delight to see you, my friend. How you doing?
Good. Yeah, it's been an interesting couple of weeks.
To say the least. Well, first of all, before we get into all of the former Governor Kitzhaber thing, what's the atmosphere in the building now? Is it settling down? I mean, we have a new governor. Is the session progressing, or is it still kind of mulling around a little bit?
No, it's been a lot more productive around here because there are a lot fewer distractions because of kind of the finality of it. And this is by no means over, but it's definitely back to business as usual around here, much more so than it's been since the start of the session.
All right. Well, we've heard now that the feds are involved in the investigation of the former governor, and I can't help but think that this is pretty riveting. What's the feeling going on up there? What are you hearing?
Well, and what I have right here, this is a copy of the subpoena that was issued by federal officials, and people can access this. All you have to do is Google search Kitzhaber subpoena. And it's pretty sweeping. I mean, I'll name some of the entities that are listed on here: Demos, Resource Media, Energy Foundation, Clean Energy Development Center, and there's any number of agencies listed here as well: Department of Administrative Services, Department of Energy, Department of Environmental Quality, Department of State Lands, Oregon Department of Revenue. And what I'd really like folks to understand is that low carbon fuel standards is mentioned word for word in here. And all you have to do is go and Google Kitzhaber subpoena. You will find the document. Several media outlets have it. They're trying to pass legislation that's mentioned directly and specifically in a federal subpoena.
All right. Now, you would think that President Courtney and Speaker Kotek would say, wait a minute, we better push the pause button on this, because they could be implicated if they go through with it, wouldn't they?
Well, I don't know the ramifications of that, but the thing is that there, from the start of the session and even prior to the session, was a push for a transportation package because we have a lot of infrastructure needs throughout the state. Right. And the House Republicans and the Senate Republicans have been very clear from the beginning that if you pass low carbon fuel standards, you are going to compromise the passage of a transportation package. And there had been some discussions going on, but it looks like that isn't moving forward. And it's unfortunate because we do have so many needs that must be met. And there are a lot of business interests throughout the state who have been supportive of that and who would support an increase in the gas tax. But we're already starting to see the price of gas rise again from where it was even a couple of weeks ago. And we're nowhere near the peak driving season. So you can imagine what that's going to look like come Memorial Day. Yeah. And then you start adding more on top of that between the low carbon fuel standards and the cost of compliance for traditional fuel suppliers and a gas tax on top of that. And we're trying to look out for working Oregonians.
Well, a key point to this, though, Scott, a key point to this is that this piece of legislation really is a result of the scandal. And it has Sylvia Hayes' fingerprints all over it, plus the former governor. I mean, this is a central part of the scandal.
Well, yeah, and it's all right here in the federal subpoena. And like I said, I would urge folks to look at this. You can find this online and look for it. It's mentioned word for word in here.
All right. So how's the new governor settling in, Kate Brown? And where is she on some of the issues that concern you?
Well, there's not going to be a whole lot of difference policy-wise between she and Governor Kitzhaber, and it's not like there's a lot of bills that she would veto that he would have signed or vice versa. And, you know, I work in the Senate, and she had spent a lot of time serving in the Senate, and so a lot of the senior members of the Senate, especially on the Republican side, have known her for a while. For example, she's off to a good start with our office in particular, because when she was still Secretary of State, we had talked to her about a bill that's going to help one of your listeners and constituents down there, Senate Bill 161. And she had promised that she would help move it. And within 24 hours of her being sworn in as governor, there was a public hearing and work session on it.
Wow.
So that's already happening. What's interesting is that she has appointed the guy who was her deputy when she was Secretary of State as kind of an interim to head up the Secretary of State's office. And she's said that next week she will make her decision on who to appoint to that. And there's a lot of different dynamics and moving parts involved there.
You know, there's a part of this I want our listeners and viewers to understand. It's possible that even though Kate Brown, obviously a liberal, but if she will come to the offices and come to the chambers, you can work with that. If you can have a dialogue with a sitting governor, you got possibility of getting some good things done.
Yeah, and so far she's been true to her word insofar as we're concerned.
That's wonderful. What's her position on immigration?
Oh, that I don't know, but she, is obviously a Portland Democrat, and she's known as being very liberal on a lot of issues.
All right. Now, she's settling down, and I get all of that. Do you sense, Scott, that she has any personal issue that she's very concerned about, that she'd like to see go through, that would be maybe outside the box where former Governor Kitzhaber was?
They actually align pretty closely on most of the issues, including the environment, and she's been a big proponent of equal rights for lesbians and gays, and a lot's been made of that, but Kitzhaber was too. So policy-wise, there's not a whole lot of difference. I mean, it's almost meet the new boss, same as the old boss in that sense.
Yeah. There's been a little bit of discussion on her position relative to the death penalty, that she's probably, I mean, you can help me on this. Is she leaving in place former Governor Kitzhaber's stay on that issue?
She isn't ruling out the possibility of doing executions. And I ultimately think the way to go on that whole issue, the death penalty was decided by voters, but that was a long time ago. And since then, you've had a lot of new people move into the state, and you've had a lot of younger people who weren't eligible to vote who are eligible to vote now. So I would submit that the electorate is different than it was back then, and that if voters had to vote on it again, they might vote differently than they did last time.
Yeah. Back to the subpoena, I understand that there are some former staffers named in this. I don't know if the tentacles of this reach into any of the agencies, but this could be quite stifling. I mean, it's possible this thing could rear its ugly head right in the middle of the session and mess things up.
Well, and like I said before, none of this is going away anytime soon. The fact that he's resigned his position as governor doesn't mean that any of these investigations are going to stop, and some of them appear to be picking up steam in a lot of ways. So they're looking here, they're looking there, and there's some controversies now about they're trying to sue to stop the release of different records and emails. And his girlfriend, Sylvia Hayes, her defense for doing that is that she doesn't want to incriminate herself. Right. So she's invoking her Fifth Amendment rights. I won't release these records because I might incriminate myself. And that looks very bad. Yeah.
Will Governor Brown possibly reconsider the way the Ethics Commission is put together, or the Ethics Committee is put together, which is pretty much an appointment of the governor? Do you think she may set that aside and find another way to make it a little bit more accountable?
There's been some different proposed legislation. My friend, Representative Julie Parrish from West Lynn, has proposed some bills that would tighten our ethics guidelines. And I know that the budget for the Ethics Commission came up in one of the committees that my boss was on earlier this week. And that's one of the things they were looking at is, okay, well, what exactly does this body do? And what are the ways in which it can be improved? Because it's a complaint-driven process right now. So the burden is essentially on the average citizen who's working for a living to file a complaint when they suspect that something's going on. And wow. So there are definitely ways that process can be better.
All right, one last question, and it just seems to me that as this thing progresses back to the low carbon fuels bill, politically, this is total political now. that if the Democrat-controlled House and Senate go ahead and pass this, it becomes one of the greatest campaign tools given to the Republicans. Can they afford to do this?
They've gone all in on it. And it's already passed through the Senate on a party line vote. Senator Betsy Johnson is a Democrat, and she voted against it. And it was in committee over on the House side and passed out on a party line vote. So this thing's on a fast track to pass the House on a floor vote and go to the desk of Governor Brown for her signature.
All right. If it's named in a subpoena, doesn't that stifle it? I mean, can the governor sign it if it's subpoenaed information? Can they mess with evidence?
Well, it appears that they're on track to do all of those things. And we've been raising these objections every step of the way. And even the transportation package, like I said, there are definite needs in this state, infrastructure needs all over this state. And the Democrats need bipartisan support in order to pass it. They don't have the votes in their own caucuses to pass a gas tax and transportation funding package. And so, like I said, we've made very clear from the beginning, the House and Senate Republicans, that if you pass low carbon fuel standards, it's going to compromise the ability to pass a transportation package. And that's doing a huge disservice, the fact that they're insisting on low carbon fuel standards and compromising that. It does a huge disservice to everybody in the state.
Well, Scott, thanks for your time and being the hawk up where they are. We really appreciate you being with us and look forward to more times together. Best to you, my friends. Our prayers are with you. I can't imagine this session. It's unlike anything ever experienced in the state of Oregon. And I think you'll glad to see June and July come around pretty quick.
Well, I'll probably be down there visiting family by the time this is all done.
All right. Well, we'll get you in the studio. Thanks, my friend. Talk to you soon.
All right. Thanks, Barry.
All right. Scott Jorgensen live from Salem there at the Capitol. We'll be right back.